Internal documents obtained by the Epoch Times revealed that in the wave of the global industrial chain moving out of China, Chinese authorities issued an urgent order to keep Japanese and South Korean companies from leaving China, for both economic reasons and the CCP's political agenda. Huizhou City in South China's Guangdong province used to be a manufacturing hub. An internal letter from Huizhou Municipal Bureau of Commerce to the city's Foreign Affairs Bureau on August 10, 2020, indicated that over the years, a total of 280 Korean-funded companies had set up plants in Huizhou. However, affected by U.S China trade war, the coronavirus pandemic, and the withdrawal of Samsung Electronics from Huizhou, along with many other factors, Huizhou's imports and export trades with South Korean fell by 77.4%, of which exports plummeted 89.5% compared with last year. According to statistics from the Huizhou Municipal Bureau of Commerce, there were 96 Korean companies in the city as of July 2020. That is to say, 2/3 of Korean companies have either gone bankrupt or left China. The official letter from the city's Foreign Affairs Office, which was marked extra urgent, showed that the CCP is becoming desperate. The letter titled, "Please provide the current situation and work plan in our cooperation with Japan and South Korea," called on local officials to make full use of the relatively better pandemic control situation in Southeast Asia and advocates fighting the pandemic together to improve relationship with China's neighboring countries such as Japan and South Korea. Current affair commentator Li Linyi interpreted that this letter shows the CCP's desperate efforts to keep Japan and Korea under the guise of a joint fight against the pandemic. The purpose is to prevent foreign companies from transferring production lines out of China and to protect China's regional industrial chain. Huizhou's Bureau of Commerce suggested a few measures in the document, such as promoting the China-South Korea Industrial Park in Huizhou. At this year's China-Korea Exchange Conference and Japan-Guangdong Economic Promotion Conference, it also suggested inviting Japanese and Korean companies to visit Huizhou for investment opportunities at the two conferences. Another internal document from the Huizhou municipal government revealed that the purpose of keeping Japan and South Korea not only has economic considerations, but also is a political task related to the CCP's Belt and Road Initiative. Huizhou's BRI project will be evaluated in the following aspects: helping local enterprises go global, opening up markets along the Belt and Road route, frequent visits to Japan and South Korea to promote and attract investments, and high-standard planning and construction of the China-Korean Industrial Park in Huizhou. The document also showed that Huizhou has 5 sister cities, namely Songnam in South Korea, Worcestershire in the United Kingdom, North Vancouver in Canada, Milpitas in the Bay Area of the United States, and San Martin de las Piramides in Mexico. Among these 5 cities, Songnam City in South Korea is the focus for Huizhou to nurture bilateral relations. Commentator Li Linyi pointed out that Huizhou's relationship with Songnam City is aimed at using South Korea's economic and technological resources to alleviate China's economic crisis. At the same time, the CCP is also trying to exert political influence on South Korea and export CCP's hegemony. These internal documents have confirmed that facing both internal and external difficulties, the CCP attempts to cushion the severe impact of resistance and sanctions from the international community by trying its best to keep Japan and South Korea, Lee said. The National Interest, an American biweekly magazine, reported on July 27th that South Korean leader Moon Jae-in had shown strong unwillingness to join the anti-CCP campaign with its American ally, despite the increasing pressure from the Trump administration. For instance, Moon opposed the ban on semiconductor sales to Huawei and other Chinese firms and refused to denounce China's national security law in Hong Kong.
The Chinese Communist regime has forcibly introduced a new education policy in Inner Mongolia, requiring Mandarin language teaching from first grade and completely removing Mongolian language teaching in Mongolian textbooks in 2 years. The new policy has triggered intense protests among the ethnic Mongols. At least 8 Mongolians have committed suicide to express their anger and disapproval. In the name of alternative bilingual education, the Chinese Communist Party began to promote Mandarin-only education at schools in southern Mongolia in September. Mongols organized large-scale demonstrations to protect their culture. Teachers went on strikes and students boycotted schools. Although Chinese authorities arrested a number of protesters, tens of thousands of Mongols continued their protest, holding banners such as Protect Mongolian Language and Stop the Assimilation Policy. Some locals revealed that the CCP has carried out an all-out suppression of the Mongolian civil disobedience movement. The authorities demanded that Mongolian children must resume school within 3 days, otherwise local officials at the grassroots level will be held accountable. The principal and teachers will be rated as disqualified and will not have any promotion in the next 3 years. Parents will be punished according to law, and students will be dismissed. In addition, parents who refuse to send their kids to school will be punished based on their job categories. Government employees will be removed from their posts. Local governments will stop providing loans to herders and stop issuing social welfare for disabled parents.
The latest news we got is that the authorities dispatched a large number of police and riot police to the pastoral area, forcibly taking students from house to house to get them to school. Ethnic Mongols feel that this is the second cultural revolution. The entire South Mongolia is now basically a police state. Police and riot police are everywhere. The Mongolians feel this is the second massacre.
The Mongols were unwilling to give in, and some parents even took their children to hide in desolate grasslands.
In some places, schools cannot resume at all. Both parents and children are fighting against the new policy. I believe the purpose of this new policy, to put it bluntly, is to wipe out Mongols' mother tongue. All ethnic Mongols, including parents, students, teachers, and those Mongols within the CCP system, their response is unprecedented. In fact, we are also shocked to see such intense response from all our fellows.
According to Apple Daily, a Hong Kong-based news outlet, a middle school principal in Inner Mongolia was unwilling to dismiss those students who boycotted the school. He committed suicide after resigning. Ingbat believed that at least 8 Mongolians have committed suicide.
This is not a simple language issue. It is an issue of cultural extinction. We Mongols believe that if the Chinese government successfully eliminates the Mongolian language this time, it is equivalent to destroying the Mongolians' ethnic identity. That's why everyone takes it seriously. Not only students and parents, but the entire southern Mongolian people are standing up to oppose the so-called alternative bilingual education.
According to information released from New York-based Southern Mongolian Human Rights Information Center, former Mongolian President Sakyak Albendorch publicized a video statement urging Chinese authorities to respect the ethnic rights of Mongolians to maintain their mother tongue and call on Mongolians around the world to support their fellows in Inner Mongolia.
We saw a very prominent phenomenon this time. That is, the response from Outer Mongolia is very strong. The former president of Mongolia also realized what the CCP's purpose is. The CCP's long-term goal is to slowly and completely make the southern Mongolians assimilate to the Han culture and become Han Chinese completely. After that, what is the CCP's next plan for the Mongolians in Outer Mongolia? That is also a question we should keep in mind.
In an interview with The Guardian, Ingbat Togochog, director of the Southern Mongolian Human Rights Information Center, pointed out that Inner Mongolia has always been the target of the CCP's cultural extermination policy. Locals do not believe that the change in language education is for their own benefit. Everyone perceives it as a way to erase Mongolian language once and for all. He also said, in the past 70 years, the Mongolian people have experienced many things, including cultural genocide, political oppression, economic exploitation, cultural assimilation, and environmental destruction. After 70 years of the CCP's forced policy, the only thing left for Mongolians to remember their identity is the Mongolian language. Many Mongolians initiated a petition on the White House website, calling on the outside world to support their protests, and asking Washington to prevent the CCP from destroying the Mongolian language and culture by removing Mongolian language teaching in elementary schools. They believe the CCP is attempting to force Mongols to assimilate to the Han culture, which will lead to total extinction of Mongols as an ethnic group.
On September 14th, European Union leaders told Chinese leader Xi Jinping to open up markets, respect minorities, and step back from a crackdown in Hong Kong, also asserting that Europe would no longer be taken advantage of in trade. Anxious to show that the EU will not take sides in the global standoff between China and the United States, German Chancellor Angela Merkel joined the bloc's chief executive and chairman to deliver a tough-talking message to Beijing. European Council President Charles Michel, who chaired the video summit, told reporters, "Europe is a player, not a playing field," in reference to a growing sense in Europe that China has not met its promises to engage in fair and free trade. With more than €1 billion a day in bilateral trade, the EU is China's top trading partner, while China is second only to the United States as a market for EU goods and services. China's Xi was not part of the post-summit news conference, and there was no joint statement, but the state-owned Xinhua news agency reported that Xi rejected any interference in Chinese affairs, particularly on human rights. Xinhua reported Xi as saying during the video summit, "Chinese people will not accept an instructor on human rights and oppose double standards. China is willing to strengthen exchanges with the European side based on principle of mutual respect so that the two sides can both make progress." The EU accuses China of breaking a host of global trade rules, from overproduction of steel to stealing Western intellectual property. European attitudes have also hardened towards Beijing because of the novel coronavirus, which many scientists believe originated in China, and because of a new security law on Hong Kong that the West says curtails basic rights. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said at the news conference, "We are really serious about having access to the Chinese market and tearing down the barriers." Merkel said she and her two EU colleagues had pressed Xi to be clear about whether it really wanted an investment agreement that is being negotiated between the two and which would force China to open up its markets. Merkel told reporters from Berlin, "We put on pressure to make progress on the investment agreement." She added, "Overall, cooperation with China must be based on certain principles: reciprocity, fair competition. We are different social systems, but while we are committed to multilateralism, it must be rules-based." Merkel said that the demand for a level playing field was justified today given China's economic transformation in the past 15 years. The EU also wants stronger commitments on climate change from China, the world's top polluter. The EU and China did sign a deal to protect each other's exported food and drinks items, from feta cheese to pixie and bean paste. While modest, the new deal is a trade coup for Europe as U.S., Australian, and New Zealand producers will no longer be able to use the protected names on their exports to China, although there is a transition period for certain cheeses.
On September 13th, a mountainside collapse occurred in the suburb of Mianyang City, Sichuan Province. The mudslide area measured roughly 1,000 square meters, burying a stretch of interprovincial highway. Big rocks and mud suddenly rolled down from a mountain next to a commercial street in Yanbian County, Sichuan Province on September 14th. Panzhihua City in Sichuan Province is a famous mining center in China. On September 14th, the city was hit by severe floods and mudslides. Mudslides in Lijiang City, Yunnan Province on September 13th blocked a major road and several vehicles were stuck and damaged. Local authorities reported that 2 people went missing.
如果呼吸的是呼吸和把些不要来了，不要来了，记得18万这下面垮了，车子一找到它报废在里面，不要下来了，几天没见来不去了。
Heavy rain on the evening of September 13th quickly flooded the streets in Bao'an area of Shenzhen. A bus was trapped in a flash flood. About 20 passengers climbed to the top of the bus, waiting to be rescued. In Huizhou city of Hunan province, it's harvest season for rice, but it's been raining for several consecutive days and the paddy fields are inundated. Almost all the rice grains sprouted while soaked in water. Peasants suffered huge losses. 3 typhoons hit northeastern China's Jilin and Heilongjiang provinces on August 27th to September 8th. Local peasants shared videos online to show that the 3 typhoons brought heavy rains and strong winds, which damaged large areas of corn and rice crops. A peasant who purchased insurance for his crops thought he could get compensation from the insurance company, but his claim was rejected.
保险，你看看这稻子是不是不行了？今天保险公司来了，我说我这稻子报绝产，收不了了。他说我这稻子还能有产呢。我说你要能收，你来收吧，都给你了，我不要。